Welcome back. Thanks for joining. So we've all heard that famous saying that people come into our lives for a reason, season, or a lifetime. And it's usually how we comfort ourselves when a relationship ends or when friendships shift. But I couldn't help but to question this lately. What if we are the reason, the season, and the lifetime phases within ourselves? Right? So what if the version of you that survived the past, the one who had to be tough, the one who had to have and protect everyone, was just a season? And what if God is calling you into a new version of yourself that you don't even recognize yet? If you're feeling uncomfortable in your own skin right now, or like your old life doesn't fit anymore, I want you to sit with me for a bit, because I think we're going through an upgrade. So thank you for tuning in. I'm Marissa, and you are watching Daughters of Single Mothers. So I just want to start off, as always, giving glory and honor to God for restoring my voice in more ways than one. So I have to be really transparent lately. So lately I've been like weaving in and out of like these spaces of reflection, and today's video is no exception. So today I want to talk about navigating life phases, understanding your reasons, seasons, and lifetimes. Because here's the thing, as daughters of single mothers, we often inherit survival mode, right? We learn early on that change can be dangerous. We learn that we have to control everything to be safe. So when we start changing internally, it can feel terrifying. It feels like we're losing control, and we get stuck in the scarcity of the moment, thinking that this discomfort is going to last forever. But I believe that God is inviting us into a Christian healing journey that breaks those generational cycles. He's trying to move us out of surviving to thriving. So let's play detective on our emotions, and let's figure out where we are. The reason. So we're upgrading who we are. And we're going to start with the reason. So I've been realizing that I am in a phase where my reason is purely internal, right? My reason for this current struggle is to change who I used to be. For a long time, I thought I knew who I was. I had this identity built up. I was the strong one. I was the big sister. I was the one who could figure it out. I was the fixer. And I think a lot of us can relate to that. Hopefully, a lot of us can relate to that. Because when you grow up watching your mom do it alone, you internalize this superwoman complex and you build an armor. And right now, the reason for my discomfort is that God is peeling that armor off of me. And let me tell you, stripping it away leaves you feeling so exposed. This phase is about self-improvement, not in a worldly hustle culture way, but in a spiritual way. It's about realizing that the old you had a reason. She's what got you here. She survived. But she can't take you where God is going next. You have to be willing to let her go and embrace the upgrade. And I think that is what scares us sometimes, right? If I'm being honest. If you're feeling that tension and you're feeling that friction, that just means it's intentional, and you're on the right path, right? Because the reason is for you to upgrade. And when you shed your skin, it's uncomfortable. When you're shedding layers of yourself, you're shedding layers of clothing, you're shedding layers of financial burden, you're shedding layers of emotional baggage, right? That shedding process can be uncomfortable. I mean, really uncomfortable. But it's okay. It's okay. Because that means you're growing. And growth, to me, is priceless. It's timeless, and it most certainly is ageless. You do not have to be, this age, that age. It's ageless. So, let's move on to the season. And this is where I am, right? So we've talked about the reason. Now we're on the season. And this is where I am. It's scarcity versus simplicity, right? And I'm going to be very vulnerable with you guys right now, because, like I've mentioned it before in some of my previous videos, that I've been going through some changes in my finances, some changes in my living space, a massive change in my spiritual growth. It's really a change in all areas of my life, even to how I dress. I don't think it's wrong how I dress. I don't think there's nothing wrong with it. I just, I've talked openly about my shopping addiction in the past and how dressing in beautiful garments became a part of my identity. Well, now I have to admit that right now my dressing season is sweatpants, minimal makeup. I mean, I have no mascara on right now, a little concealer, right? But it's minimal makeup. It's really simplicity. That's what it is. When you grow up as a daughter of a single mother, times of scarcity were scary. It wasn't just about not having money. It was about safety. When things got tight or when we didn't have the best of everything, it felt like failure. It felt like we were slipping through the cracks. So when I entered into this financial change that I'm in right now and scaling back, that old scarcity mindset started to creep in immediately. And I had to sit with how I was feeling. I had to really ask God, what is happening right now? It was a lot of crying. And I realized that this season isn't punishment. It isn't. It's not punishment for you. It's a classroom, right? We're being schooled. God is showing me that my value isn't in dressing up. It isn't in the material, right? It's not in the material. It's not in this abundance, elaborate style of being, right? Or how well put together I look all the time, right? Because that was where my identity was. And yeah, God has really been teaching me to detach from inanimate objects. Like, I valued so much the type of car that I had, right? Where I lived, what area. Of course you want safe, right? But I think some of us have to ask ourselves, like, if you pick the best neighborhood, can you afford that best neighborhood? Or, is a neighborhood that is close to the best neighborhood, is that also good? Or do you have to live in the best neighborhood? Right? So these are questions that I had to ask myself. And these are also questions that I had to detach myself from, right? A lot of these, like I mentioned, inanimate objects. That's all they are. Yeah. I mean, having nice things is it's a wonderful aspiration, right? But the question is how much value do you put into that? And I think when you start to value that over your own spiritual growth, that's where things go wrong. So God has been working with me, has been, and I'm sure, will continue. So, yeah. And I think for a lot of us, we perform okayness. And when I say a lot of us, I'm talking about daughters, right? Daughters of single mothers. We perform this okayness, right? We dress up to hide the fact that we're struggling on the inside, or sometimes we're struggling on the inside. We buy things to prove that we aren't the little girl that went without anymore. And so you dress it up with nice things. But God is asking you, can you trust him in the quiet? Can you trust him in sweatpants? Can you trust when the bank account looks different? I believe there's a peace in this simplicity that I never found in the hustle. And that's real. And I know that there will come a time when I will get back into my dressing up season, which I look forward to. My pretty heels, my dresses, because I believe in God's promises. But I need to move past the fear of scarcity first. And I needed to be content in the casual so that I don't idolize my couture, So if you're in a season that feels less than right now, right? Please don't shame yourself. Don't let the enemy tell you you're failing. You are just being recalibrated, repositioned, and transformed. So now let's talk about the lifetime, right? Now, this is the fun part, right? This is where your season meets your understanding and the knowing I feel of God's will for your life and your purpose, right? And do you make the change, right? And be committed to it and continue to move in that path? Or do you revert back to what's comfortable, like your old ways? But let's talk about it. Let's talk about lifetime. So when I look back at the scarcity that I grew up with at times, because there were times I didn't know that I didn't have it, right? My sister and I, we didn't know we were poor until we actually saw, how other people lived. And that's sad, because that's actually where comparison starts to, that's where comparison comes in. So, yeah, but when you grow up being a daughter of a single mother, it teaches you to chase things, right, that in the end do not matter. We spend so much time and energy chasing security in jobs, security in relationships that aren't right for us, and also an external validation. We chase things that can be taken away from us in a second. But what is your life in time, and what are you doing with your time in this life? And this is lifetime, right? So what is your life in time right now? And what are you doing with your time in life? What remains when the reason and the seasons change and shift? For me, it's God's will over my life. And part of his will is this community that I am building, right? I have been praying for a godly community. I really have. And that's why I started this channel. A community of people that choose me and I choose them. Not out of obligation, not out of trauma bonding, because we all know what that looks like, right? We are not trying to be sufferellas, which is a term I just recently heard. It's actually kind of funny, but yeah, we're not doing that. I want us to bond over healing, unity, and growth. Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. So, an isolation, right? Something that I have been there several times. Isolation is a trauma response. And I've been there. But I have to always catch myself from slipping back into that space. We think that we have to do it alone because we saw our mothers do it alone. And we wear this independence like a badge of honor. But God didn't design us to be alone for a lifetime. He designed us for connection, right? For community, for family. And that is why I created this channel. I'm here to build a community, and I want this space to be where we can stop pretending that we have it all together, because I sure don't. Do you? Yeah. Where we can admit that we're in a temporary season or that we're in a rebuilding season and support each other through it. Because godly relationships aren't about what you can do for each other. They're about walking toward God together. This is lifetime work. So what am I saying? What am I saying? I am asking you to play detective on your emotions this week. And ask yourself, what phase are you in? Are you in the reason phase, where you're upgrading your identity and shedding that old armor? Or are you in the season phase of change that feels uncomfortable and stripped back, stripped away? Or are you looking for that lifetime connection with God and a real community? Or are you simultaneously going through all three phases right now? Right? Ask yourself. And for me, this is my therapy, right? This is my therapy, sharing my thoughts and opinions with you. And what a lovely session I believe I've had. And I really mean that. Building, growing, studying, praying, loving, reading, laughing, and even crying at times. So if any of this has resonated with you, please let me know in the comments. I do read them, and they mean the world to me. They do. They really mean the world to me when I read your stories. We are building this godly community together, one video at a time. I am sending you much love and big air hugs with healing today. All right. Until next time, bye for now.